Thank you, Graham. I'd just like to say for your pitch, I agree to take on the course. It will be called Storytelling, Writing as a Method of Inquiry. My interest this year comes from my own research, where I've been working with Laura Richardson's Writing as a Method of Inquiry, and I really wanted to look at how we could take some of those ideas into our teaching practice. For example, during my research I used poetry, ekphrasis, scripted conversation, factionalized narratives, and visual text. Why do I do this? Because I really believe that we need to enjoy the experience of writing. Not taking away from what's been said today that writing is hard, but I do also believe that writing can be enjoyable. I also believe in involving the whole body in the making sense, and when you're using writing as a method of inquiry, that is possible. And the other thing, going back to Marie's keynote, is to make our writing accessible to more people than just the top academic journals. Now, what do I press? Can you hear me if I don't use this? Can you hear me at the back? I'm not going to use that. It's too many things. So just to go to Laura Richardson, writing is a method of discovery, a way of finding out about yourself and your world. When we view writing as a method, we experience language in use, how we word the world into existence. And then we reword the world. We erase the computer screen. We check the thesaurus. We move a paragraph again and again. The worded world never accurately, precisely, completely captures the studied world, yet we persist in trying. Writing as a method of inquiry honours and encourages the trying, recognising it as an emblematic of the significance of language. Now, I've passed around some coffee beans. My participants in the Creative Collaborative Critical Group that we've been meeting each week really enjoyed the coffee bean experience we had as one of our writing experiences. What I want you to do right now is just pick up that coffee bean, give it a bit of a sniff, because one of the things that we forget about are the worlds that we write in, the things that impact on our writing. And I have found in much of the writing that I do that's been published, there's always a story about coffee. Why? Because I often sit in a cafe and write. And so I begin with the experience in that moment. And there's a famous barista out at the Hardware Cafe in Tetarangi, if you ever go out there, called Thomas, and he knows about this, and he sings. Has anyone been out to Tetarangi? We've got a singing barista out there. And so he's also ended up in many of my publications. We're going to come back to the coffee bean, but I want you to get ready to write about it. Some of the things I got involved in this year were a series of seminars, we did some faculty workshops, a lot of academic conversations, the Critical Creative Collaborative Regular Writing Group, which you're going to hear a lot about today, and also in my teaching that we're just finishing off right now, they're about to hand in their last assignment, they're so excited, is the EdProfs 205 Promoting Achievement for Diverse Learners, which is a course in the BEd primary degree, and it's a core course. Paula Morris came to us and talked about creative nonfiction. She gave us a really vivid seminar, and she talked about good creative nonfiction and the importance of bringing our writing alive. One of the key points was getting into the descriptive detail. I want you now just to look at your coffee bean, and I want you to write for 30 seconds everything you can tell me about that coffee bean. Can you hear me? Oh, do the coffee beans not make it up the back?
A lot of us 8 hours.
You'll just have to remember. Some more coffee beans needed here for the hungry people. I want you to have a look at the coffee bean. Tell me what it looks like, what you see. I want you to give it a good sniff. I want you to rub it between your fingers and maybe even across your cheek. How does it feel? I only want you to write about what you sense from that coffee bean. If you want to eat it, that's fine. How does it feel when you crunch it with your teeth? Or you can imagine it as you taste it. Paula Morris talks about we need to step into the mystery of the story and allow our imagination and experience to meet. And that the act of writing is finding a story. Tony Bruce and I later did a seminar on factionalisation. Factionalisation, which is a creative method of writing research, which is a combination of the facts that we generate in our research and then the fiction of the probability, plausibility to make a good story. The important thing in factionalisation is the word verisimilitude, and that we can exaggerate and swagger inside that story. If you still have your coffee bean, I want you to exaggerate and swagger with it and write down a memory of coffee, what it reminds you of. Where does the smell of coffee take you? Memories are those stories that we conjure up with important things like the smell of coffee. We also had Virginia Braun come and talk to about story completion as method. And the act of, with our students, starting off a story, a provocation that they would then complete as part of inquiry. We had Peter Bray come and talk to us about autoethnography and retelling a story of grief. And then we had Andrew Gibbons and David Kofferman talk to us about science fiction as method. One of my master's students who came to these seminars then sent me 12 stories he'd written. He's writing about his childhood experience in Romania and how that impacts on him as a teacher today. He wrote me 12 stories based on Grimm's fairy tales about the difficulty of life as a child in Romania. We've had these fabulous postgraduate and staff workshops where we've had all sorts of people come in and talk to us and share our ideas of how we use writing as a method of inquiry differently in our practice. We've looked at poetry, we've looked at moving and body writing, we've looked at writing through drama, and I was very interested in your role play scenarios, Maria. And then we went into Kai and we started to play with materials. We would look at how we can evoke our writing through art-based work. Sorry about those, I've managed to get those upside down for you. It was really a really exciting day that we spent in Kai, exploring through the art base. We had a panel of supervisors who looked at the different ways we can do writing in art-based research and practice. Of course, there I am with coffee. I had to have one photo of me with coffee up there. So these are a bunch of collaborators that I work with in critical autoethnography. I do a lot of work in that area. Over the course of the year, I've had the opportunity to speak to many academics who use writing as a method of inquiry. We've gone and drunk a lot of coffee. We've also had a couple of glasses of red wine. And some of these have been through email conversations and also through a response to surveys. I asked them, how do you use writing as a method of inquiry? One of the things that came up in our conversations was how we are losing our writing activities in our tutorial spaces. How many of our students come to our lecture theatres now demanding that they have a set of the PowerPoints or the lecture notes given to them, and they're not writing. We're losing that opportunity for them to write, and this really worried us. And the other thing that we talked about, which has come up a bit today, is that we need to also spend time on teaching the craft of writing and the different types of writing crafts and giving our students opportunity in those spaces. So the easiest way I could think of to give you some feedback from these conversations was through a found poem. Work of the university is writing, rewriting as inquiry. Like learning to swim, jump into the pool. Learning to write by writing. Develop faith in the process over time. Process of becoming a writer. Embed technical writing into the practice. Be awake and alert to the content. Writing develops relationships between knowing and content. Writing becomes content. Need to know how to write, explicitly write. Pay attention to the craft. I wrote to find out something that I did not know before I wrote. The physicality of writing. Writing about just thinking, doing writing as process, thinking through writing. Writing comes more naturally if you engage thinking in collaboration with others. Writing to make sense of myself, to myself, write, review, write and leave it, go back to it and find the ideas there. Any writing is worth it. Using and playing with words, writing is a doing word. Now, we made mention of our critical creative collaborative writing group. I'm not sure if I got that in the right order, Helen. So we would engage in a lot of different experiences. One of them was walking through the university campus, and where I storied my history of my early trader settler family in Auckland and their engagement with early Auckland before it was a university, and the different artefacts that still remained from that time. And then each of the collaborators wrote their own stories of their histories with this place as well. I'm going to take you to my students and some of the activities that I embedded into our tutorials each week. With the students, I would give them a different creative writing task each week. This is from a robot idea that comes out of Adrian Schoon's work on found poetry, where students write their ideas and we generate data through the use of a robot and post-it notes. It's very fancy technology. And then what I did with my students at the, right, this is going to be fun, at the end is the assignment. So what I brought into this space is I changed the assignment to engage them more in the writing process, where they took all the creative ideas that they used. In the first part of the assignment, they had to write a narrative, a story about themselves, their own identity in that space, in their communities. Put that one down. So I'm going to share a few of those with you. A plastic Māori. My dad hooks us up with hangi in the backyard on every birthday, though I don't like hangi. My sister makes the raw fish salad. My mum prepares the mussels and my brother does the boil up. Though I don't like raw fish, shellfish, and I've never tried boil up. All my boys get pissed on the piss every weekend, though I can't drink much at all. All of my mates are staunch as, though I'm often told to harden up. I know the song 10 Guitars too well, though I can't sing and I don't play the guitar. I have a pepeha. I know my heritage. I know my ancestors, though I've only visited the land of my iwi once. I know my waka, though I've never seen or swum in my awa. I know my hapu, though I've never set my eyes upon or climbed my maunga. Kia ora, I am Eru, I am Māori. Who am I? Well, that's a very good question, but to that there's no single answer, for I am many things. I am the girl of Samoan descent that was born and raised in Auckland, New Zealand, after my grandmother and her 3 daughters had moved to New Zealand in 1981. The decision to move was based on the belief that they would have a better lifestyle and education in New Zealand, and I am grateful that this decision was made. I was born on January the 28th in 1996, and I've been living on Roscommon Road in Manuera ever since. I am the girl who chipped her tooth when she was 4. While standing on my toes to reach the tap with my mouth over the sink, after lowering myself to stand on my feet again, I had chipped my tooth on the edge of the sink, and I watched my tooth spiral down into the drain, into the hole, fast in circular motions. I am the girl that set the oven on fire when I was 14. I was baking Afghans and some of the mixture had melted to the sides, causing the oven to set fire. With my whole body shaking, I dialed 111 and asked for the fire department. Meanwhile, my mum rushed around frantically trying to put the fire out. She eventually put it out with salt. I am the mother to my son, Eugene Taupo, whom I gave birth to on the 10th of February 2014. This was one of the toughest phases in my life, as I was faced with judgments from all kinds of people. Being a young and single mother was hard, but I am strong. I am a warrior. I am made from all the people I have encountered and all the moments I've experienced. I am many things, but there are also pieces of me that I'm not proud of. I am the hostile word spit out during heated arguments. I am the shadow of another, ignored and faded into the background. There are also pieces of me missing. I've never met my father, nor do I know anything about him, other than the fact that he was Nuaean. I do not even know his name. I know no cousins, no aunties, no uncles, but I am still many things. Here's another one. I'm everything you see on this bookshelf. And they all had to, give images to go with their narratives. I'm every photo, carving and knick-knack. I'm the surprise brown granddaughter my father was nervous to tell his mother about. I was her favourite. Now I'm just going to, lastly, what happened is they just wrote the creative piece for the first part of the assignment, but they took this beautiful creative writing into the rest of their assignments. And this is, I'll just do this little one with the homestead. Here, that was the image that the student took. The images are all stunning as well, but you've just got the scanned pieces up here. So this was about socioeconomic diversity within this community. The old homestead sits alone on the hill. Its peeling paint and broken windows give a glimpse of the history it has seen. This is old Papakura. Behind the homestead, the orange-brown earth lays bare as huge machines plough into the green grass and ready it for something new. Slowly, the acres of green farmland recede, and in its place are new beginnings and new stories. And I'll finish there. And I'll just say, I'm not finished really, because I'm just going to keep going on with this project. It's been too much fun. Cheers.